You are never alone, not anymore. If you're waiting for a train, you have your phone. If you're eating dinner, you have a podcast. If you're lying in bed struggling to fall asleep, you have a screen. For the first time in 300,000 years, the human species has effectively eliminated the experience of being truly, completely, by ourselves. We think this is progress. We call it connectedness. But psychologists and evolutionary biologists are beginning to realize that we've made a catastrophic error. We have mistaken the absence of people for the presence of solitude. And by removing the ability to be alone, we may have accidentally broken the very mechanism that keeps our minds stable. In 2014, researchers at the University of Virginia gave participants a simple choice. Sit in a room by yourself for 15 minutes with absolutely nothing. No phone, no book, no music, or give yourself a painful electric shock. 67% of men and 25% of women chose to shock themselves rather than sit in silence with their own thoughts. Think about that. We would literally choose physical pain over the discomfort of our own minds. But why? What is it about our own internal landscape that we've become so terrified of? Today, we're going to look at the history of solitude, the science of why your brain is currently starving for silence, and why the most important tool you have for your mental health isn't a new app. It's the ability to do absolutely nothing at all. For most of human history, solitude wasn't a choice. It was a survival necessity. When our ancestors were out foraging, watching the perimeter, or resting during the second sleep we talked about in our last video, they spent hours in silence. But there's a biological reason for this. There is a network in your brain called the default mode network, or DMN. It's the brain's idle mode. It only activates when you aren't focused on a specific task. It's the neurological equivalent of cleaning your room. During the day, you absorb information, work, stress, social cues. It's all just raw, messy data. When you are quiet, when you are walking, or when you are staring at a wall, the DMN kicks in. It takes the events of your day and sorts them. It turns, what did he mean by that email, into, I understand why he's stressed, and what am I going to do about my career, into a tangible plan. This is where your autobiographical memory lives. It's the process where your brain builds you. It turns the chaos of your experiences into a coherent story. But here's the problem. The DMN is an introvert. It hates noise. When you feed your brain a constant stream of other people's content, TikTok, news, background music, the DMN never turns on. You are effectively living in a house that you never clean. The mental trash, the anxieties, the unresolved conflicts, the unexamined feelings, just piles up. This is why you feel fried at the end of the day. It's not that you've done too much work. It's that you haven't done any processing. But it wasn't always this way. If you go back to the 18th or 19th century, architecture itself was designed for solitude. Houses were partitioned into small, distinct rooms. You had a parlor, a study, a bedroom. You were expected to retreat. Sociologists note that, in the 1970s, something fundamental changed in American life. We pivoted to open-concept floor plans. The idea was to increase connection. But we also inadvertently destroyed the architectural ability to be alone. We are now constantly in each other's field of vision. We are constantly performing a social self. We treat solitude like a deficiency. If you spend your Friday night alone, you're quote, antisocial. If you go for a walk without headphones, you're weird. We have socialized the idea that being alone is a punishment. But consider the hermit figures in history. Or the great thinkers, Thoreau at Walden Pond, Marcus Aurelius in his tent, the monks who retreated to the deserts. They weren't just escaping people. They were going to the only place left where the DMN could function at high power. They were seeking deep solitude, a state where the external world fades so that the internal world can expand. When you lose the ability to be alone, you lose the ability to think an original thought. Everything you think is just a reaction to what you've seen on a screen. You aren't a thinker, you're a consumer. And in a world that never stops talking, the person who can stay silent is the most powerful person in the room. So why does it feel like a nightmare when we try to be quiet? It's because our dopamine systems have been rewired. We have been conditioned to expect a reward for every second of our time. Silence offers no reward. Silence is a low dopamine environment. When you turn off the phone, your brain goes into withdrawal. It's looking for the next hit of validation, the next shock of information. When it doesn't get it, it tells you that you are bored. But boredom is not the problem. Boredom is the door. If you can push past that first 10 minutes of withdrawal, that feeling of skin-crawling agitation, something magical happens. Your heart rate drops. Your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, start to normalize. Your nervous system shifts from fight or flight to rest and digest. In a 2013 study, researchers found that participants who engaged in intentional solitude showed significantly higher levels of emotional regulation and creativity. They were better at handling conflict, not because they were less social, but because they understood their own minds better. They had cleaned their, quote, internal house. We built a world that is a 24/7 noise machine. We've turned the volume on our lives up to 10, and we're surprised that we can't hear ourselves think. We traded the messy, quiet, productive process of internal reflection for the shiny, constant hit of external validation. But here is the truth. You are the only person who will ever live inside your head. And right now, it's cluttered, it's loud, and it's being run by algorithms designed to keep you from actually sitting down with yourself. Tonight, don't just put the phone away. Take an hour. Don't read a book. Don't listen to music. Don't meditate to an app. Just exist. The first 5 minutes will be agony. Your brain will scream for a distraction. That is the feeling of your brain trying to remember how to be human. But keep going. Because on the other side of that noise is a state of consciousness that most modern humans have forgotten exists. It's the state of being, truly, comfortably, and profoundly yourself. We didn't lose this capacity. We just stopped practicing it. The world will keep spinning without your attention for an hour. The feeds will still be there, but the person you find when you come back from that silence, that person might actually be worth knowing. You've been distracted for a long time. It's time to come home to your own mind.